Hi everyone, and welcome inside Mountain America Stadium for the Sun Devil Source post-game show following Arizona State's 35-31 victory over the University of Kansas. They moved to 4-1 on the season, 1-1 now in Big 12 play, and there's quite a scene to be set here heading into this game. 107 degrees at kickoff. That ties a record for hottest kickoff temperature in this century. 54,000 fans, sold out crowd, packed student section, and it's Parents Weekend. But focusing in on the game, there were pretty big implications to the start of the season, whether they won or lost it. So how big of a win is this now that ASU was able to come away with that victory?
Gabe, I really felt like this was the biggest game in ASU's season, probably. A loss would have made ASU fans feel so much differently about the 5-game start, being 0-2 in the Big 12. Having their bowl odds decrease to probably a 50-50 sort of a situation. The thing I've been saying for a while now is ASU doesn't want to go to Tucson sitting on 5 wins. And they have very difficult games ahead. Utah on a short prep week, going to Cincinnati, going to Oklahoma State and Kansas State. UCF and BYU coming into Tempe look like harder games than at the beginning of the season, right? And so winning this game coming off of a bye was such an important thing. And the way that ASU responded to a lot of adversity, trailing throughout much of the game, and every time that ASU had a score, Kansas kind of responded, but ASU had the ball last, except for the little Hail Mary situation, which you never know about, but scoring there with whatever it was, under 20 seconds left. You can't really say enough about the poise and the growth that I think transpired tonight.
And they did come away with the win, but this game was far from perfect for ASU on both sides of the ball. We just talked to Kenny Dillingham. He called it a pretty sloppy game on ASU's end. So what were kind of some of the things that did allow them to win that game? Because it was a back-and-forth contest. Both teams were responding to each other all the time. So what allowed ASU to come away with the W?
Yeah, I think it was the poise factor and being well-conditioned for the heat. I thought Kansas wore down a little bit more in the fourth quarter defensively, and ASU seemed to still have its wind late in the game. And the response to the adversity, ASU was really bad on third down defense in the first half, and also had no third down conversions in the first half. And those numbers totally flipped in the second half. There were, of course, a lot of self-inflicted wounds in the game, penalties, third down, special teams, miscues, as has been the case in recent games. There was Jordan Tyson struggled with the turnovers early on, having a ball go through his hands, intercepted around the goal line. But the way that he responded with some big plays late, Levitt, I think you can't really say enough about kind of where he's already at as a redshirt freshman. And they executed. When it really mattered, they executed. It was a major struggle in that respect for a huge portion of the game, especially in the first half after their successful first drive. But subsequently, in the second half, I think that they actually played reasonably well.
Now you talk about how they flipped the script, definitely especially on the offensive side of things. Sam Levitt, who's kind of been iffy on completing his passes, that pass accuracy, he was pretty good tonight. And then Jordan Tyson caused 2 turnovers and then catches the game-winning touchdown. So on the offensive side of things, can we just narrow the scope a little bit? What is it on the offense that kind of flipped, and what was successful about it tonight?
Well, I've always said when Cam Scadaboo has 25-plus carries, ASU is going to win a high percentage of his games. And the offensive line did a better job with its run blocking tonight. That set a lot of things in motion. It made it easier for Sam Levitt. He only threw for 100 and something yards, but 4 touchdowns, and he was accurate on shots down the field. He talked about getting his feet more set as a thrower, which I think was good advice that the coaches gave him that worked on that. And really just kind of, Xavier Guillory, there was chemistry building there off of the last game. We talked about that. He had the touchdown. That was a great throw by Levitt early on. Then there were several other that were very accurate on-time balls that were down the field. This was a defense that was that Kansas played that was more similar to ASU's defense, which I think led to a little bit more comfort in him in the pocket tonight. But ASU ran for something like 300 yards. Levitt ran for 70-something yards on his own, scrambling. And so that just takes so much pressure off of the need to kind of fit windows and throw the ball accurately. Still had some misses and still made some bad decisions that you're going to see sprinkled in. He's going to keep getting better. And to be 4-1 as a redshirt freshman starting quarterback, it's pretty impressive, and ASU overall responded quite well to that.
And then on the flip side of the ball, the defense, Kenny Dillingham said that third down defense was not very strong throughout the game, but he did say that the first and second down defense was a high point. And again, like we talked about with the offense, they really flipped the script from the first to the second half. So what did you see from the defense as a whole?
Look, Devin Neal's a very good running back. I thought that this Kansas rushing attack was one that could give ASU problems. But the defensive front did a really good job on early downs. There were a couple missed tackles that were sprinkled in there. But for the most part, it was third down conversions that ASU gave up. Dillingham said they were in match third zone coverage, and a couple of those were given up. Then there were a couple penalties. The Keith Avenue one looked like an uncatchable ball on third and very long. I also thought there was one that was maybe a pass interference on Kansas that wasn't called. Some of these calls really went against the Sun Devils in this game. But in the second half, ASU really responded, really on both sides. Went from not having any third down conversions of its own on offense in the first half to doing much better in the second half, and then also stopping Kansas with its defense on third downs, getting off the field in the second half. That was one of the biggest factors in the game.
And then another pretty big factor in the game was the officiating. There were plenty of refs you suck chants coming kind of from the crowd. 2 targeting calls against ASU, and that reffing really did play a big role in how this game kind of played out. So what did you see on the officiating side?
Look, normally the team that's playing at home, especially in a sold-out environment, is going to get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on some of the calls. That did not happen in this game. I thought there was clearly an advantage that Kansas gained from the officiating. I'm not saying that it was intentional or anything like that, but the borderline calls, or even some calls that I thought were not that borderline, they tended to go Kansas's way. The targeting on Keyshawn Elliott in the end zone, that was just a bad call. Dillingham said his helmet basically contacted the ball. I thought he led with his shoulder. I thought his helmet was below the neck and head area. That's the only way you can go in and try to get the ball out in that situation. As I said, Keith Abney, I don't think that was a pass interference. There were holding that I saw on Kansas early on in the game that were not called on multiple occasions. Just the second targeting that knocked Clayton Smith out of the game, I thought that was a little bit of a bang call. Maybe that one I kind of understand. The late touchdown that Kansas had, I thought the ball probably hit the ground and it wasn't overturned. And maybe I understand it's not going to be overturned, but that was a one that could have probably gone either way. And Dillingham said he was going to have to take a look at it. I think he probably was pretty frustrated with the officiating. But for ASU to be able to overcome those things and still win the game, that says a lot.
And then another kind of area where ASU struggled tonight, the special teams. Ian Hershey, the kicker, was replaced by Carson Kiefer after he had one of his field goal attempts blocked. He didn't get enough height on it, and that's kind of what Dillingham said when we talked about him. So special teams as a whole, and especially those kickers, what did you see?
That's been an issue. Ian Hershey had a PAT block at Texas Tech. Same issue, ball not getting enough height, maybe setting the hold back another half yard, something like that. Same thing in this game. ASU also had a penalty on special teams. I will say that there was a good return by Melquan Stovall, the first nice return that ASU's had probably of the season that I can remember anyways. There were no big coverage breakdowns, but the special teams hasn't been good enough. And going to Carson Kiefer, he did get better height on the ball, so perhaps that's an advantage. Parker Lewis didn't kick any balls out of bounds on kickoffs. Hey, he had 2 against Texas Tech. Small improvements, you know what I mean? But they're going to have to continue to get better on special teams.
And then they'll look to get better on special teams before they take on Utah this coming week. A 7:30 kickoff. It's a blackout game, but ASU has a short week. That game is on a Friday, and Utah is coming off a bye week. So what are kind of the challenges that presents, and what does ASU need to really do in order to overcome that Utah game?
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration, I think, from Dillingham on the scheduling of that. he even said, like, how is it that ASU plays on a Friday after playing on a Saturday night when Utah has a bye week coming in? And then we know the way that things kind of tend to work out, that Cam Rising will probably be back for Utah at quarterback after missing several games with his finger injuries. This was a physical football game. ASU played really hard. That was another positive takeaway. They played much harder at home than they have on the road, I think. And look, Utah is one of the more physical teams that you're going to play against, so they're going to have to see how they recover from this physically. They have been healthier, like this week going into this game, much more so than in prior weeks. That's an advantage. But they're going to have to continue to focus on running the ball successfully, even against a Utah team that's very good at stopping the run. They didn't get any turnovers on Jalen Daniels. That, if anything, was a surprise. Probably that was. He had eight interceptions thrown through his first 5 games. Figuring out how to get more takeaways, impact the quarterback a little bit more against Utah, try to create, some situations that are advantageous. But if they keep playing hard and they continue to learn from their mistakes, Sam Levitt keeps getting better, they have a chance to be in that game for sure, win it.
So big game, big competition, and big challenge for ASU. In 6 days from now, they'll take on Utah, and we'll, of course, have you covered all week as they get set to do so. Thank you so much for watching the Sun Devil Source post-game show. Until next time, Gabby Chernoff and Chris Cartman.